guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. Things are looking pretty good outside.
Really good.
I always feel like we get to that point in May where we're deep into annual planting. I mean, I may be halfway done, but you start to see your containers looking fresh and different areas of the landscape starting to fill in. All the hostas look good. Like plants are still fresh right now.
Right.
You know, they haven't been through heat. In fact, we had a cool down last week where we had one night that was 36. And I had basil out. I had tomatoes and peppers out.
But everything was okay.
Everything was fine. I didn't cover a dang thing because I thought, you know what? At some point, I used to, I would have run around in prior years and covered all the annuals. And I just thought, nope. It is...
It is what it is.
What it is at some point, you know?
Well, you know what it is for me? Why things, I think, look so good right now is when the tulip foliage gets cut back.
Yeah.
Because that starts to look a little...
That's a really crummy time.
It's almost like, Anyway, and then the mulch. Like when things start to get mulched, like the formal flower garden.
That was a little bit of a pinch me moment for me. So when I was watching the video back, I watch every video that we post. I watch it the night before and we make any little tweaks or edits or whatever after Taylor's done editing it. So I was watching the video back and it got to the drone footage that you took of the formal flower garden after everybody had mulched it. We had a crew of 4. Well, Paul and Bethany did a good majority of it, and then Luke and Nate helped with some of it. But it just when I saw that, it just, that space has never felt more me than it ever has.
Did you explain who Nate is?
Yeah, I did in the video. So Nate is marrying our niece. So Aaron's sister's daughter, Livy, they're getting married in less than a month now. Anyway, so he had this kind of awkward time period where he was done with school, but had, a month and a half or so until the wedding, and he wanted to work, to make some extra money, but you can't just go get any old job and say, I can work for a month and then I'll be quitting. But
it's great for us.
Perfect. Yeah. It's like things just hit the fan in May and there's so much to do and he's so great. I wish they weren't moving and I wish he would work for us full time. So anyway, that's been super, super nice. But that was definitely a moment where I thought, yes, that was such a good.
Yeah.
And we deliberated on that because I thought that's a lot of trees. That's a tremendous amount of boxwoods.
It's a lot of bricks.
The brickwork. I mean,
but you know what? It's done now.
It's done.
The initial investment is done.
Yeah.
And I think over time, it's going to be a really, really nice spot in the garden.
Yes, I do too. It's just such a breathing space spot for me because I'm such a formal garden lover. It does something. The order in it does something for me. Anyway, before we jump into the videos from this past week, I did want to mention that we are running a Memorial Day sale on our website, gardenanswer.com, now through Wednesday, May 28th, and it's 10% off pretty much store-wide with the exception of the DeWalt drills, but everything else is 10%. And I don't think that you need to have a code. It just applies. Your 10% will just automatically be applied to your order.
So stock up on some stuff.
Right. Also, kneeling pads. Ken was telling me that they've been available now for just over a year. Oh. And he wrote down that we have over 1,500 5-star reviews. Oh. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for putting those reviews on for those because it's something I'm really quite proud of. I love that kneeling pad. And they've held up so well. Oh, yeah. We're still, obviously using even the prototype samples that we were given.
If you do work outside, I can understand people who wear kneeling pads or knee pads, permanently, because if you're up and down all the time, then you don't have to mess with it.
Right.
But otherwise, having a kneeling pad, I use them all the time when I'm messing around in irrigation boxes or just anything at all.
Yeah.
Really saves your knees.
It really does. And for me, my ankles, because I put my whole self on the, from knee down to my feet, fits on there when I'm, kneeling down. Okay, first video from this past week was planting annuals in the chicken coop flower bed, 6 containers, and in front of the stream. So I did the 6 containers in the Persephone garden area. So there's 4 that are kind of in the front of that area, and then 2 that are kind of toward the portico area. And then I planted the annuals in front of the chicken coop, and then we did the berm in front of the stream and pond, which is so fun. I love that space. So Rena said, why do you have drip with aquapots? I don't understand. Could you please explain? So we do both because aquapots, I don't think the insert is quite big enough for some of our containers to be sufficient all the time. And you'd still need to get water into the reservoir of the aquapot at some point. So you would need to fill it. So it wouldn't...
You either do it by hand or you do it with the drip.
Right. In our drip system, it runs every other day. So every other day the plants are getting water right at the root level, like right at the top of the soil. And then whatever they don't use, instead of like going out the bottom of the pot, well, some of it probably will, but a lot of it goes into that aquapot reservoir. So when we have an off day for watering, the plants have something to utilize.
When you have annuals, you really kind of need to water every day.
Yeah.
In some cases, like twice a day.
For small pots.
Yeah, depending on the placement and where they're at. If they're like full, like when we did the hay racks.
Yes.
Those, I don't think water stays in the...
Well, it's a tiny reservoir, and then those cocoa liners aren't, a lot of air goes through them.
Right, and it was all day sun. Like there was just no shade at all. So in those cases, I think like twice a day. But if you have a drip system, you either need to have like its own zone, and sometimes you just can't do that. You can't run a specific zone for certain pots.
Yeah.
And we don't want to run our water every day because that's wasteful.
Too much.
It's just the plants don't need it, like our trees and stuff. So this hopefully is the best. Hopefully it works. This is kind of a test.
Yeah.
To see if they can hold up on those off days.
Yeah. And it does take a little bit for them to actually work. Like in any case, if you're just using them solely and just keeping the reservoir filled, or if you have drip, it takes like a couple weeks for the plants to root in and actually start being able to utilize and suck that water up. So you do want to keep that in mind. Like in the beginning, you're still going to need to water from overhead for just a little bit. Helen said, "You have Nepeta and cats. I planted some here in the UK, and the neighbors' cats have come into our walled garden and have eaten it. Do I give up and plant something else or choose a variety cats don't like?" Nepeta, so catmint, our cats don't bug it.
It could be a different variety too.
Catnip, on the other hand, our cats didn't care about that either.
No. People always ask that. Like, aren't you worried about planting this or that with your cats? And our cats don't mess with stuff.
Well, usually catnip. I remember when Russell was a baby, we got like a catnip toy that had catnip in the tummy. And he would play with that, and his eyes would kind of glaze over a little bit. But I bought some catnip plants just to test, because I thought I'll put them somewhere where they can mess with them. It's totally fine. And he just didn't care at all. So I don't know if it's a specific variety of Nepeta that you have that your cats like, but ours, we've got 4 different varieties planted out there, I think, at this point, and none of them have been a magnet for the cats.
And we have a lot of neighbor cats, too.
Yes, we do.
We've got our cats, but then... look at the cameras at night and it's like a circus.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Far West 6275 said, "Love the lined brick driveway. Please go over the process. Is there cement under the pavers? How are you making sure they stay in place?" So they put the bricks down much like they would a normal brick walkway. They put the road mix down, they compact it, they put the sand layer down, line the bricks up, and then we're going to do metal edging instead of the concrete. You can mix up like small batches of concrete and then just kind of pour along the edges of the brick to kind of keep them all locked in. But concrete kind of wants to, if it gets driven over, it'll crack.
Concrete cracks.
Yeah.
Even without getting driven over, it cracks.
Yeah, just weather and things like that. So we're doing metal edging right there, and then the metal edging won't be visible, but it's really tough. And that's the edging that we used out in the formal flower garden for those brick walkways as well.
There's plastic edging too.
Yeah, except it comes up way higher on the pavers, and you can see it. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, we were looking at the differences, and the metal is like half the height and stronger. Go with that. It is more expensive.
It's probably more expensive, yeah.
But I think it's going to be longer lasting. It's not visible. Perfect.
Yeah, you're kind of hoping that you're doing something that's going to last, decades.
Yeah.
So it's like probably worth the investment.
Yeah. Joseph Fox said, "This is totally off subject, but I just had to cut all my lungwort back to about 3 inches because it was covered with powdery mildew. It's nothing but stems now. Will it come back?" Yeah, it will. No worries. Betty said, "Lovely area by the chicken coop. What made you decide to let the chickens run free, and what happened to the trampoline project? Got a glimpse of it the other day." So I've always really wanted to let the chickens run free, and I love that. But I got to wait till some of our animals are a little bit more rooted, because I let, we had the one hen. The other one had the ability to come out, but she was broody, which was probably good. She's the naughty one. So the one hen would come out, and she would scratch around in the mulch and make a mess of the mulch, but never messed with plants. And then once that other one started coming out, I would watch her. Like, we'd have a nice lavender plant that's this high off the ground, and she would climb up into the center of the plant and start like raking her feet around in the lavender plant. Like, I can't imagine that would be comfortable. Lavender's woody down there. And you're like, ouch. And we have fully incorporated our 5 new hens, the babies, in with the big ones. They're doing great. And I don't know if having 7 out would be the best
Probably not
idea.
great. Yeah.
They've got a large run. They get treats and greens and all kinds of stuff all day long.
And visits from Samantha like 10 times a day.
Samantha loves to go look for eggs. It's her favorite activity. And then also what happened to the trampoline project, it's still in process. I think the water in that area will be started next week for the lawn. So as soon as that's in, then we can seed the grass. We can also at any point mulch the flower bed areas.
Yeah, except for we need to trench through those areas to run.
I guess after the water is
drip
done.
zones that pop up. So.
And then the last thing, what will probably happen is we'll do the irrigation for the grass. We'll seed the grass. We will do the stone walkways, get that all finished up, and then we'll mulch the rest of the areas that are left. And that way we don't mulch and then, a mess gets made on top of them because that just happens. And I'm so excited for that area to be
buttoned up.
Yeah. Lori said, what are your mom and dad's favorite spot on your property? Also, will we see any updates on Monica's? Yes, you will see an update on Monica's. We were waiting because she wanted to have like her annuals planted and things like that. My mom and dad's favorite spot on our property. I asked my mom that at one time. And I can't remember what she said. She said she had a hard time deciding.
Maybe like the west side or?
I think she loves the Hartley area, the fireplace area. Yeah, I can't remember. We don't really talk about favorite spots.
No.
I don't know. Scribney said, so pretty, all of it. Do you think the Color Blaze series could do well out in the South Garden with literal full sun, or is it still better with some afternoon protection? It could handle it, but it would need a lot of water to do that. I
still think it would wilt during the
It probably would.
heat of the day.
Yeah, it probably
would. Come
would.
back at night.
Yeah, but it would look crummy in the middle of the afternoon.
I would actually say no to that.
Really?
Just from the standpoint of like, will it look good all the time? No, it won't. Not in our climate. Mm-hmm. Probably in a lot of other climates that get more cloud cover and things like that.
I don't know though, because we haven't really put it 100% to the test. We haven't set up proper drip to the plants. I mean, when we had them in more sun in front of the gazebo that one time, we were like supplementing with a hose, and I don't know how consistent it was. I don't know how much they were getting. Plants do not want overhead or that kind of water either. I mean, having it right at the root level is the best.
You planted them for years and years though around the kitchen garden, and those always seemed to kind of flag a little bit.
They did, yeah.
And those weren't even 100% full sun.
But back in those days too, I don't know if we had the drip nailed.
Yeah. Well, maybe also the way that we water, because we water every other day. Mm-hmm. It probably wouldn't be possible with our watering and our climate.
Probably not.
You'd probably have to have its own drip system and get it, water every day.
Yeah.
It probably doesn't need a ton of water every day, but it just needs that consistency.
Right. So light requirements for a full sun plant, like your Color Blaze coleus, which say they can take full sun, is 6 to 8 hours plus of sun. So maybe if the Color Blaze gets it that 6 to 8 hour block in the morning as opposed to in the afternoon, they would do a lot better in our climate. Kelly said, where do you get your beautiful cement feet for your pots? Are they from Unique Stone? They are. I love that it lifts the pots up just enough. Your taste in concrete is spot on. I'm with Aaron. I love the lemon coral sedum as a border. We need a lot more pot feet. We've been using bricks because whenever you pop a container out on ground, like whether it's mulch in a flower bed or on our gravel anywhere, they tend to want to plug. So lifting them up just a little bit so there's some air and really like an ease for the water to get out. I don't know. So it's easy for the water to drain out and not sit right below the pot and saturate the ground beneath it. It just makes for a much healthier situation, I think.
I wonder if we need some like concrete slabs that we place down wherever we put pots, kind of like a stepping stone, but maybe square, and then put the pot feet, nice pot feet on that, and then the pot. Is that too much? And because then the mulch can cover the slab.
As long as the slab's covered.
Yeah. So the slab, what I'm thinking is like you kind of dig out a little bit of an area, almost as if you're putting like a flagstone in or something like that. So the top of the slab is at the same level as the mulch, and you can just kind of cover over it so you don't see it.
Right.
That way the pot feet are not sitting on dirt. They're sitting on
because they will settle
a harder object. Does that sound like it sounds like a lot of work?
It does sound like a lot of work, but also maybe less work in the long run.
Yeah, because hopefully
re-leveling
it won't settle.
Yeah, which it will with the amount of water coming out of it. Suzanne said, have you been happy with the aquapots? Thoughts? They're so new, like the inserts, that we haven't been able to put them through the test yet. We'll be able to report fully at the end of this growing season. And Jeannie said, love, love, love your videos. Thank you. I was wondering what you do with your columbine during the season. Will it rebloom if you cut it back? Our yellow columbine by the birch tree will oftentimes rebloom after we shear it back. The other stuff just kind of like is foliage, which it's pretty. It's a kind of delicate looking leaf canopy. So yeah, and I'm not sure what the yellow variety is because it was here. It was much more contained when we moved in. I've let it kind of just ramble through that flower bed area, but it's a good one. Okay, next video is planting several things that are in full bloom and 11 big honey locust trees. That was a big day. We did a lot of planting that day. I had some opalescent phlox, which is one of my favorite phlox varieties, perennial, and then 2 different varieties of shrub. We had Illuminati Spice, which we wintered over in the high tunnel from last year. They are a new one, and they smell so good, and I love where all 3 of them ended up. And then Sonic Bloom Pink Weigela, which is a reblooming type Weigela, and I don't know how I didn't
how have we not planted that before?
I don't know, but they're like, I just said reblooming, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They rebloom through the season. And I mean, we'll see how they do.
Do they like legit rebloom?
That's what I was just going to say. We'll see. Like maybe their first bloom is really, whoa. And then they just kind of throw blooms throughout the rest of the season and maybe not as massive a quantity, but who cares? Like they're so bright. Yeah. And then you had already dug the holes for the honey locust trees. And I think you and Paul had maybe planted 1 by the time I got back there. And then we planted the remaining 10. They look so good. It looks like a park back there.
Did I film auging those holes?
I thought you did.
That didn't make it into the video, did it?
I think it did.
Oh, did it?
I don't know. Feels like such a distant memory at this point. We've done so many things, but it was a good day. Absurdist Sloth said, question for the recap. Is there a reason to correct a curve in a trunk with like the locusts have, other than aesthetic preference? And am I the only one that thinks there's something quite pretty about a wonky tree trunk? Trees that aren't perfectly straight look so natural and relaxed to me.
No, it's probably just aesthetic.
Yeah. I mean, they would probably grow just fine.
Yeah.
And they might even correct a little bit. You never know.
Over time.
Yeah. Possibly.
Maybe I wouldn't mess with it on trees in the dirtlands as much. But trees there where we're planting them, I kind of want them all to be like mostly straight to where it's not like egregious.
Yeah.
And there was only a couple of them that were, in my mind, egregious.
Yeah. Oh, you guys only staked 2 of them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're already looking better.
Yeah.
And the one we planted, a much smaller one, but the one we planted in our kitchen flower bed, it looks so good. And it had a really big bow when we planted it. Yeah. And I feel like we're going to be able to take the staking stuff off in maybe a month or 2 by the end of the season for sure. PQ429 said, why can't you leave the grass grow to the trunk? Is it just convenience to mow the grass or does it cause any issues to the tree? It can cause issues if your trimmer if your grass is right up against that trunk and the trimmer girdles the bark. Tree? Yeah, it can kill the tree. So keeping the grass line away from the trunk just for that purpose, I think is really
all the
good.
nutrients are going up and down around the exterior, not exterior, but just right inside the exterior of the bark, I think, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like that's a really sensitive part of the tree.
Mm-hmm. And it does look nice to have, I think, wells around them. I don't know why, but
it's honestly just like convenience for trimming.
Mowing.
Because when you're mowing, then you don't get too close to the tree and you never like bumping into it because you're trying to get the grass so close to the trunk.
Daisy said, I looked up your honey locust trees. It says that they have 3-inch thorns on the trunks. Is this true? Ours do not have any thorns.
That person looked up Shade Master honey locust and it said there were thorns.
Well, I don't know.
Is that like in some other climate where they 100% do not have thorns?
No. Shade Master honey locust trees do not have thorns. They are specifically bred to be thornless, making them a safer and more convenient choice for landscaping.
I noticed that. I noticed a few people commented talking about like, oh man, bad choice. But I feel like those people have never seen a Shade Master.
Yeah. They're also known for their seedless nature. So they don't get the big long pods and things like that. They do produce those little like almost like catkin kind of things, like blooms in the spring and they drop. So if you have them near a house, like if you're walking underneath, which we do, going to our kitchen, you have the potential of tracking some stuff in. But we don't have that issue.
I think that, Shade Master specifically is a good choice for like a tree to grow in a grassy area that gets mowed.
Oh yeah.
Because they are a little messy. So I wouldn't recommend it over like a deck or over a fountain, perhaps.
Paul curses my name. Yeah. I think whenever the fountain up front gets plugged up, I couldn't control what type of plant they put right there. That tree, that Shade, or I don't know if it's Shade Master.
I think you had a slight amount of control over where the fountain got placed.
Perhaps. But if you look at that area, it just goes right there.
Yeah, it looks great.
It just goes right
But
there.
you wouldn't recommend somebody else do that thing.
No.
Yeah.
And we've considered moving it too.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's a great tree to put in the grass where you're going to mow. We have a lot of them in our area. Like they plant them in parks and things like that. So because you're just mowing up any of the little, leaves that fall or whatever, you can just mow them up.
Yeah.
And you never really, it's not a problem.
We call them the rakeless tree because you don't have to rake up big piles of leaves and they're nice. Raquel said, I planted my strawberries using the Biotone fertilizer. I'm wondering if I should fertilize it again with Berrytone. It depends on when you fertilized. So I planted mine with Biotone. This is 2 months ago now, maybe? I don't know. And I haven't reapplied fertilizer yet. I probably will mid-season. They are producing. They're starting to produce and it's fun. Like every day we can go out there and get like a handful and they're big.
Espoma says to do it every month on berry producing things.
Does everybody do that?
I wonder
I don't.
if it would help.
I don't think those need any help.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, maybe we'd have twice the production.
Maybe it would help more if your soil, if you just keep reusing the same soil over and over.
Yeah, sure.
But like we just put in the raised bed mix. So they probably, and like compost and stuff, they probably have plenty of nutrients at this point.
Right.
But in the future, if you're not continually adding, then maybe it would make sense.
Yeah. M. Lananut said, what is the name of the first tree you featured, the one planted several years ago? Oh, I started up by the stone pathway by the June snow dogwood tree, which I did notice there was comments. What is the name of the tree? You never mentioned it. I mentioned it in the first 15 seconds of the video. June snow dogwood. I just wanted to show you what it looked like in its full glory because they're so beautiful. And I have another one in the high tunnel I still need to get planted out. I just love that tree, but I want to make sure that I place it somewhere where it can, we can really enjoy its shape because they do grow 30 feet tall and 40 feet wide.
I wish that companies had, so how we put the proven winners tags on videos?
Yeah.
I wish that other companies had tags like that that were accessible where you could, like when you're talking about the June
pop
snow,
one up.
Just pop up a tag. But alas,
we can't have everything.
Yeah.
Danielle said, what variety of Artemisia was that? Silver lining. I think it was silver bullet and they changed the name to silver lining. Let me double check that I'm right on that. Yep. Silver lining. And it's amazing. We were actually just walking around looking at it last night. I took a picture of it because there's some Nepeta right behind it. Maybe we can toss a picture up on the screen, but like the layering, it's really pretty. Nancy said, Laura, you never talk about slugs. Do you have them? And if you do, what do you do about them? We have very few slugs. We do have them, but not to a point where they're, we're noticing a lot of active damage on the plants. But I use a bug and slug killer. It's a really easy repellent to use, like a little like grain almost, like a granule. And just shake it around. And it's usually like in the spring when we take cans out of flats, we'll find slugs like on the bottom, like they came from wherever the plants came from. But once summer hits, no slugs. Like too hot and dry for them. Melinda said, did Aaron's sister move away from locally? Was she the person where you built the raised bed and did the gazebo and put in the Hoselink? Yes, she was. So she got married and moved to North Carolina and she was here for a visit. She was here playing with the kids that day. Anyway, yeah. So where we put in that greenhouse and all the raised beds, kind of in that long, narrow strip, it was meant for RV parking, but she wanted it as a garden and it was a really great project. I loved that. It looked really good, I thought. But, so that house was sold and hopefully whoever lives there now enjoys that space. Tina Marie Anderson said, hi, just watched you plant a bunch of honey locust trees. They are extremely invasive. How do you plan to contain them? A neighbor of mine planted them and they completely took over his land. Is there a non-invasive species? Yes. So the one we planted is a non-invasive. It's a seedless variety. There's also like sunburst, skyline.
Don't get sunburst.
Yeah, sunbursts are gross. Gross. Yellow growth, new growth. We have a few of them in our garden. I think both of them in the Persephone garden are sunburst. It does look like I'm iron deficient, you know, and then they kind of keep a lighter yellow color through the season. Like their older foliage or on older wood doesn't turn that nice deep green.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, next video is planting our herb garden from seed, 1 sun and 4 shade containers, and evergreen planting. That was another big day. So I got rounded up my herb plants that we had started from seed in January, and we planted them minus the dill and the basil. So I subbed in some amazel basil because I used all of our basil. I just couldn't, knowing that there was basil, fresh homegrown basil in our greenhouse when I was, making my meal plans and cooking dinners and things. I couldn't buy some from the store when I knew I had some in the greenhouse. And I just thought, you know what, I'll just put in some basil later. And then dill is one of those things that you need to successive plant. You don't plant once and it's done for the season. So the stuff I planted in January is kind of long gone. Like I had used some of it. And then I just decided like, I'm not going to keep seeding this in the greenhouse. We'll just wait and either direct seed it, or in our case, we lucked out and the dill that I planted last year seeded itself in a different raised bed. So we dug out some of those seedlings and popped them over into that bed. So it was kind of fun to be able to, like, there's a lot of projects I feel like I start and then they just kind of peter out and I forget to update or I forget to follow through. But that one, we nailed it. We got it done. It's in the ground and I love it. And then for our 1 sun and 4 shade containers, the sun container was in front of our greenhouse. This was another one where we planted it up for spring using the Centara double blue lilacs. And I used 2 like jammed together. And so it was fun to show you guys what the root balls look like after a few months being in a container planted like that. We planted those out in the landscape, cleared out the pansies. Bethany took those home and we replanted that one with some really pretty things. Some deep purple salvia, tiara blue supertunias, royal velvet supertunias, mini vista plum vein supertunias. There's some Gara in there. It's going to be full and beautiful. And then the 4 shade containers were those in the portico area. And we've since added a couple more with some taller urns and it looks so beautiful and complete. But I love the mix. We had some lady in red ferns, some double up pink begonias. We had some calla lilies. Can't remember that. Be my something. They're the kind of deep pink. And some wire vine. And then what else do we do? Evergreen planting. I think you and Paul did the evergreen planting.
Yeah.
So you guys were working on the big Leyland cypress and the dark blue angel Deodar cedars. Lori said, congrats on hitting 2 million. We did hit 2 million subscribers this week, which is a huge moment. Yay. I should have led with that today instead of waiting. So thank you to all of you who have subscribed to our channel. I mean, we're on a different channel right now with the Garden Answer highlights. This has been a really nice channel, though, to be able to just have some conversations and not take up like a slot, I guess.
Sure.
Well, I don't know. The schedule works out nicely, but anyway, yeah, definitely a milestone I never anticipated or really even was thinking about.
Yeah.
Even the 1 million mark.
Right.
That wasn't really the goal, I guess.
Well, there was never really a goal ever to begin with.
That's true. Well, the goal was like, we'll do it for a year. That was the goal.
It was yours. I think for me, it was just like 100% hobby. Like, I just want to edit something. I want to film and edit something and you know, in the same way that maybe you join like a rec basketball league just because you want to play basketball, right? Like you never anticipate that you end up in like the NBA or anything. Right. You know, it's like, I just am having fun. Yeah. So yeah, the fact that it's turned into 2 million subscribers is awesome. It's wild. Did you ever imagine this could happen for you? Nope. Love the shade pots. A 3rd pot on each side, repeating the calla lilies, rimmed in something chartreuse would be gorgeous. Love those lilies. By the time this one comes out, you might have seen that. I'm not sure. Anyway, what ended up in the 3rd pot, I think is perfect. Nanette said, I have ferns in my other home and it spreads. Does the one you have spread all over your yard? Not here. Because we have to irrigate with drip irrigation. If we don't have water running to an area, plants have a hard time spreading. Really. Unless you're a sumac, right. Or what else is spread for us? A mint. I haven't planted it in the ground, but I have done that before. There's not a lot that's just a wild spreader for us here because you have to irrigate it. Lillarella said, can someone explain to me why Americans remove the H from herb? Herb. Yeah. Is it a regional thing? Is there a backstory to it? I have no idea, but I don't know anybody who says herb. No one in the U.S. says herb. Well, I don't think that's probably true. Unless they have an English background. Possibly. Donna Braden said, wow, my only excuse for this question is because I'm not a gardener, but why do you need a layout plan for your herbs? It was because I wanted to do this as kind of like, well, an herb garden, let's start an herb garden from a seed. Let's have a plan. Like, where are we going to put this? How many herbs do we need for a 3x6? What can I fit in here? Especially if you're a beginner. I kind of wanted to just give an idea. I normally don't do a layout like that, but it is kind of fun. It's kind of fun to grid out your space, figure out what kind of spacing you need, and then kind of go with that. And so I really wanted to follow through on that part of the project as well. Chris R. Fan said, many congratulations on reaching 2 million subscribers. Thank you. So very happy for you. Such a great accomplishment. Will you do anything to celebrate? We joked about that. We did. I was like, what should we do to celebrate?
Go film another video.
Yeah, right.
Basically. Kim said, can you overwinter the pots with aquapot inserts or do you have to dig them out? I put one in a pot with strawberries.
I don't know. That's a good question. We're going to be faced with that this fall.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine if that well, the lids aren't secured and maybe that's why, because I was telling Aaron, they need to have it to where those lids on top can like clip in. But maybe if somebody left it in a pot, if there's water in there and it needs to expand, maybe having that lid be able to kind of move up and down would keep the plastic from breaking. It will keep it from
breaking. Yeah. Boy, that's going to be interesting because I would think that you'd want to clean them out, but that's a tremendous amount of work. And also it seems unnecessary to have to clean out the soil every single year.
Well, especially if you planted strawberries, a perennial plant. Like the whole goal is just to not have to mess with it.
I don't know. I'm probably going to push for just leaving them.
Well, maybe we should ask too. I'm sure that, Jack Barnwell is the inventor, I guess, of the aquapot insert. And then I'm sure that they've done some testing along those lines. We should ask him.
Yeah.
And see what he says. Jeanette said, do you think you will eventually put taller raised beds in your herb veggie garden? I've thought about that. I don't think it would look right proportionally. Gardening in beds that are tall is awesome. Like the strawberry beds, such a great decision. I'm so happy with those. But like with our picket fence and the layout of the garden, they would look way too massive. I don't think it would look right. I love the size of our beds in there. I don't like mid-height beds. So I wouldn't go any higher than 12 inches. I don't like the thought, I would never sit on the side of a bed and garden. That's just not how I do it. I need to be like facing it straight on. Otherwise it kind of hurts my back to do that. So like 12-inch beds or 36-inch beds.
Sure.
Like there's no in between for me. Tia said the placement of the trees is so amazing in this space. Every day I do a little clap and smile session. Question, has the algae affected the kids' pond area? Yeah, there's algae in that too. I don't know if it's as bad. It gets more shade.
Can we put algicide in that one?
Yeah.
Because we
could put algicide in anything. I'm about this close to doing that. Well, I won't. But
the latest was Greg. We got like the 12 tilapia, and he's like, "Let's do 100." So I don't know. Maybe we'll do 100 tilapia.
I feel bad because there's like nothing anybody can do. It's just like a random mix of things that we can't control.
Yeah.
We're trying.
And he's floored. He's like, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. And I think it seems like I told him, how much of the SAB we were putting in. He's like, I've never used that much SAB in my life. I don't think it's working. It could be a situation like when we first started using iron tone on our plants that were chlorotic, and it's too slow of a feed. And our pH is too high that it binds up the iron. So it's kind of just negated. Like it doesn't work. Could be a similar situation with the SAB. Like, well, it would work if, but our environmental climate just makes it different somehow. And it negates. Yeah. So I don't think we're going to keep using the SAB. We'll keep using like the beneficial bacteria and some of those types of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see.
Just wait for shade. Maybe we should swap those oaks for something faster growing. It's going to be...
They've already been in for long enough now.
Yeah, but they're doing nothing.
Well,
we could plant...
First year they sleep. Second year they creep.
I don't know if that applies to an oak tree.
Your mom said that happened. She planted an oak in the house.
But it's a different kind.
Oh, well.
They did a pin oak.
I'm just saying, it was an oak.
It was an oak.
And she said it sat there for a number of years. And then it finally took off.
Yeah, we'll see. Sonia said, Laura, did they not remove the burlap off those trees? I always see you do it. I'm watching out for you, girl. Love all your videos. Since watching your channel, I have a beautiful garden, the prettiest in my neighborhood. That makes me happy to hear. A lot of times we leave the burlap because we don't have treated burlap around here. Like it doesn't have any coating on it. And it just kind of like compost in the hole. It just disintegrates and goes away. Unlike the wire cages in our area, just in our experience, and I don't know if it's for every tree, because I know a lot of trees have been planted around here in wire cages, but I'd be very interested to learn what's going on underneath that soil.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to tell, like, does it happen every time? But we had that huge blue spruce tree that had been planted as a smaller balled and burlap tree decades prior. We had it fall over and there was still a wire cage completely, fully intact underneath that root system or underneath that tree. There was barely any rust on it. There was some twine, but I don't remember it being, there was just like baling twine, Is that baling twine?
Sure, yeah.
Anyway, there was some of that, but I don't remember it being tied around anything.
Sure,
it just was
yeah.
in the hole.
Yeah, twine always needs to come off.
Yeah, twine, and we take the cage off.
Yeah.
A lot of people
If
don't.
we can. There are some circumstances where it's just it would fall apart if you took the cage off.
Or the roots have like gone around the cage so
Yeah.
much that you can't. So we'll, in that case, like make several cuts all over wherever we can access it, so that as the root system grows, it can push like pieces of the cage away instead of staying.
And that's true for the burlap too, that not oftentimes, but sometimes the roots are already growing through the burlap.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't even know how you would really take it off.
Sure.
Even if you wanted to.
Right. But I appreciate you looking out for me on that, because it can be a concern if it's been something that's treated, or like a lot of people will plant things that are in peat pots. Like the peat pots, a lot of them, if they're untreated, will over time with introduction of water will fall apart and disintegrate. But a lot of times those peat pots have been waxed. And if you live in an area like ours where it's pretty dry, it takes them forever. Like if they ever do break down, it takes them forever. So we don't plant things straight in the ground in their peat pots. Hannah said, are the pot feet on the pots by the house door just for decoration? I haven't noticed any other pots with those or other methods to raise them up. Well, that's something we're going to be remedying. And the next time we put in a concrete order, I'm going to just order scads of pot feet in different sizes, and all probably just concrete color. And then we have ordered, and I'm going to place another order for these too, but they're just like little black rubber squares. I think you can get them on Amazon in a pack, and those will raise your pots up just enough to where water can escape, and you can also get a drip line up through without the pot pinching it on the ground. And those are really handy too. And in this case up there, aesthetically, I like the level with the pot feet, but I would like to get everything up there and everywhere else up on feet as well. We're using bricks right now. It doesn't look the best, but it's doing the job. All right, the next video was a surprising flower color palette for the Hartley and parterre. So I stepped outside my comfort zone and we planted up that whole area with red and purple, like royal red and royal purple color. And then the addition of a little bit of yellow in the front, because I ended up planting sunflowers, the Suncredibles, in the cold frames. And then the front iron urns have the lemon slice super bells in them. So a little bit of that bright color in front. And we tried out, it's the Classy Carmine Dahlia from Proven Winners. We tried it last year out in the South Garden, and I kind of tucked them back, like in the back part of a flower bed, just to see. I wanted to experiment, and I really liked that color. We did some other reds in the back there too. There was a unplugged red salvia, which is much more of a like electric warm red, and I didn't care for that color as much as the Classy Carmine, because that was like a deep burgundy red and there was a richness to it, and I felt like this could go either way. Like I've seen a lot of like almost Valentine's looking combinations where they'll do a burgundy-ish red with a pink and a white. I like that blend. I think it's pretty. Anyway, so I really loved that plant. We used a lot of it in the parterre garden and in the pots and stuff around, so that was just really a fun deal. I also planted the back of the chicken coop area that day, so that whole space was pretty much done. Linda said, wow, what a full planting day for you, Laura. So many years of no red to the full beds of red. Question, did you lose a bet with Aaron to plant all this red? No.
If you would have lost a bet, it probably would have been like a bright red. But even that, I feel like I'm kind of moving away from.
You've kind of been gravitating towards more soft colors and things. Val said, a mammoth planting project. Do you know just how many plants were planted today? I don't. I did not count them. I could. I try not to think about that, especially prior to the project, because like thinking of the amount of work ahead, but it was fun. And I just kept wanting to like go, and we didn't end up finishing all the pots behind the Hartley. I needed to go grab a couple of plants for those, but we got them all set up on drip too. That was our last phase. We did 5 phases in that project. We did the parterre, and then we did the 4 corner pots, and then we did the cold frames and urns, and then I did the two low urns behind the Hartley with the callus and the new De Delta and wire vine, and we did in the chicken coop in that phase. And then phase 5 was clearing out the small pots and getting them all hooked up onto drip. And I don't think I planted 2 mangaves, and then I had like 5 pots left to plant, which I have finished. I don't know if you'll see that video by the time this goes out, but you will. Amber said, in regards to the lavender, if one plant is not sizing up like the rest, do you give it a season or 2, or would you replace it? I just leave it. In a case like that, they normally rebound and take over, unless I see it like really fizzle out. And if I happen to have an extra plant, I might pop one in. Janie said, "Hi Laura, love learning from you. Question, did you say what you plan to do with the large stone planters that you had lining your driveway?" They are all in use. Again, I don't know if you will see that video by the time this one goes out, but they're all planted and placed, and I love them. Lucy said, "Can someone answer a question? Laura has complained about fighting the wire vine that comes up randomly in her fields." The bindweed, not wire vine. "Is that the same wire vine she is planting?" No. "I've wanted to plant wire vine, but have been afraid to." No, plant wire vine. It's awesome. Some people where it's native, like, or not native, but it grows within your growing zone, they say it does spread pretty quickly. I don't have that experience because it's an annual for us. Maybe people could chime in the comment section and let me know, and let you know what it's like if you plant it in the ground in a space where it would come back every year, because I have no experience and maybe that's a bad idea, but I use it in containers a lot. I put it along one of our little stacked stone walls underneath the maple last year, and it was just a pretty little accent plant. The thing that we battle is bindweed. It's the worst.
Yeah, it is.
It really is the worst. Ellen Nutsa said, "We use in our area cold frames filled with soil a bit under the edge, and we plant them with seedlings or for winter sowing. I see yours have the soil to ground level. What made you decide to use them like so? Is it not hard to plant or dig out?" Maybe you answered this before, but I'm kind of new. Yeah, I totally do not use cold frames like cold frames are meant to be used, because we've got the greenhouse, and so I do a lot of my seed stuff in there. I love having just color peeking up out of them. I loved when we had the artichokes in there. Aaron hated it, but I loved that. I thought it was just so different looking, and I loved seeing that artichoke interest coming out. They're not at ground level. They are 5 feet deep.
They're really deep.
They're really deep. We put logs, firewood at the bottom, and did several feet of that, and then did raised bed mix on top of that to fill them up. But you could stand down in there, and
they went down as far as the foundation.
Yeah.
Was so if you have a crawl space or something, and you were jumped down inside a crawl space, it was kind of like that.
Yeah. Ontario said, "Things are going to be stunning, Laura. I can't remember though. What was your original plan for the cold frames when you built the Hartley? Has it turned out as you envisioned? Are you using it as you had thought you would?" No. I mean, I don't even know. I like the look of the cold frames, and I thought while we're doing it, let's put them in. I mean, I like the look of them without cold frames though too, and I probably would have ended up with benches and pots around the whole thing. But I kind of like having them there. It's just kind of a fun, different thing. And it might be that I use them properly at some point, to harden off seedlings or...
Did the one that we saw in England have cold frames? No, it didn't.
I don't think so. It had benches, or it had plant tables or something out in front of it.
It does look nice if you've got color coming out of the...
Yeah. And I like the look when the cold frames are open. It looks like a legit greenhouse.
Right.
It's got all the things that you could possibly need. FZ Lead Ventures said, "Just a question. Are you ever worried that planting below the 4 crabapple trees will cause damage that could make you possibly have issues with one of them?" No, I can usually tell. When I put the auger in there, I can tell if I'm near something that's going to if it's a substantial root. And if it is, I scoot the auger and I don't plant right on top of a root or I'll break little hair roots and things like that, but nothing major. And so I haven't had any issues with that. There will come a time where I won't be able to plant annuals under there though, unless I want to seed annuals, which is fine. I could do a low growing zinnia, which would be really pretty.
Yeah.
Something like that. Or we could go in with something more permanent at some point. Like a ground cover, like we did the west side maple trees. We did lamium there. So it might be a situation like that. Now these crab apples are a small tree. They only grow 10 by 10. So it won't be like this massive tree, but I will still probably deal with some roots right there. Steinru73 said, "Laura, do you ever just breathe in the beauty you've created, walk alone during the golden hour, and cry a little at the blessings that have been bestowed upon you? What a blessing you've been to so many of us." That's so sweet. We do enjoy our gardens in the evenings.
Every evening.
Every evening. We do, last night your parents and your aunt and uncle came over and we drove around in the golf cart, and then we just walked around and sat outside and enjoyed it. And we do that, just the family of 4. Every single night we go around and, lately I've been I'm planting until it's I just physically cannot plant anymore. But that's a short season once we get all the annuals done. And then we do a lot of sitting on the furniture on the brick patios, our space, or by the pond. Last night we ended up in front of the pond with the fire going, and we just enjoy it. Yeah.
Kids play with the fish.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And pick algae out.
Yeah, we all got into the pond yesterday and did an algae harvest. Mark said, what happened to all the foxglove that was behind the chicken coop? I loved them. I've been trying to get them going, but not having the best luck. Love the mix you planted this year. Yeah, they kind of fizzled out back there. It could be a mixture of different things. They could have gotten weeded out. They could have just not had the proper water. They could have got bullied out by the annuals I put back there last year. I mean, who knows? So I've got like 2 plants coming back up. I've got flats and flats of peach colored foxglove that I started from seed this year that I need to get planted out. But not there, because now I've got stuff there. But anyway, I really love foxglove. Okay, next video was planting the west side urns, kitchen flower bed, and echinacea, plus mulching the formal flower garden. So I started off that day planting some catch-a-wave mangaves and lemon coral sedum in the west side urns, and then we moved over to the kitchen flower bed, and I planted a mixture of the rock and deep purple salvia, stratosphere white gara, the pinkerific dahlia, and some supertunia bordeaux. We're just starting to see some of the dahlia color. Oh, it's going to be so pretty right there. I'm so excited. But we also did plant we went to the garden center because I needed a hydrangea, and I got a little quick fire hydrangea, and we planted a ginger wine 9-bark in that kitchen flower bed as well. Dug out some plants to kind of make some room. I do think, that round boxwood that's like right on the front of that?
Uh-huh.
I think I'm going to dig that out.
Really?
I think so. So it's like more of a sweeping view
sure.
of it. I like that in the winter, but it's like, it is a randomly placed boxwood. It did make more sense, however, with the original shape and the way that those walls kind of went when we moved in. And I just have kept it there because it's a boxwood and I like boxwood. So
sure.
Anyway, that might be a change that comes later on, not right now. Anyway, and then I did transplant. Bethany dug the Echinacea purpurea that was out in the formal flower garden because it was in the way of their mulch project. She was like, do you want to keep these? Do you want to, so they dug them out and put them in a tub the day before. And then that day I went through and planted them on the berm behind the Dream Stream. They look a little like stressed,
sketch,
but they'll be fine. And then we ended off with the montage of the mulch in that space. And oh my gosh, it's just amazing. Kathy said, wow, what a change. What's the name for the new space? We're just calling it the formal flower garden. It was the cut flower garden. Formal flower garden seems natural.
What are we going to call the cut flower shed? Formal flower shed?
Just the flower shed.
Flower shed.
Because we don't have any other shed, really.
Sure.
Yeah. Flower shed and formal flower garden. Ralph said, does anyone know what type of Japanese maple is at the corner of the house at 2748? That is a Katsura Japanese maple. Kathleen said, your crew did a phenomenal job on the mulch. They did. Thank you, Erin, for the drone shot. Yes, that was just, the drone shot just made it. Have you had the previous owners come to see all the beautiful transformation to the property? We haven't, but we should.
Yeah, we should. I'll text them.
Yeah. Rebecca said, Laura, your North Pole hedge is looking full and beautiful. They were so tiny when you planted them. How far apart did you plant them? Did you feel that they are the perfect distance apart? Do you think there is a big difference between Proven Winners North Pole versus the generic emerald green? The price difference is insane for me, and I'm having a hard time making the decision. How far apart did we plant those? 4 feet?
I don't remember what we did.
I want to say we went 4 feet because they said that they grow 3 to 5 feet.
Yeah,
wide.
We probably picked the middle.
I think we probably picked the middle, hoping that they got at least that wide.
I think that we could have done them a little bit closer. The first ones that we planted along the west side. Mm-hmm. And then in the south garden, I think we went a little bit closer. Yeah. I think that's a little bit better. And as far as the price goes, they shouldn't be like drastically different.
Oh, well, probably are. I mean, emerald green are like kind of a stock variety. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
And like lots of different people grow them. So they're really like large supply. And North Pole is a newer than the emerald green.
I don't know though, but even at Andrews, they're not that much differently priced.
Not really, no.
So I guess that's my only frame of reference is like your parents doesn't seem like they're charging, hardly any difference at all. And
I don't have extensive enough experience with the emerald green to be able to say like what the difference is between the two. Anita said, still watching, but will you be keeping the bulbs? Bethany took those home. I just think I forgot to mention it. I mention it so often that I feel like
Bethany takes everything.
Bethany takes all of the plants that we do not need or want to keep or want to make time to replant out in our garden. I mean, they'd all be great. I probably wouldn't plant pansies out in my garden after I'm done using them, but violas I would, bulbs I would. But it's just the time factor. Like, do we have time to do that? Would somebody else benefit from them? Let's just send them on their way. And so Bethany takes all of those, and not all of them end at her house. She's got like this network. She is so good at finding homes for whatever it is. In fact, that's what we do with like our giveaway, like our donate pile that I always have going, like as I go through the kids stuff or go through our stuff. I just put it all in one specific spot, and she'll come gather it up at whatever point, and then she will like farm it out to people. Yeah, who she knows has a need for whatever it might be. And it's actually perfect. Like her little girl Agnes is just behind Samantha. And so a lot of Samantha's stuff, if it's still like, you know, usable and nice, Agnes will get some benefit out of that. Yeah. Which is great. I love that.
It makes you feel not wasteful when you know that other people are benefiting from things that you don't have, you know, the time or whatever to keep around.
Right. And also they didn't have to pay anything for it, even at like a thrift shop or whatever, wherever we would take the donations to if we did that. They just get passed along. I love that. Annie said, I had bulbs that didn't bloom this year. I've been waiting for the foliage to brown up so I can cut them back, but they're as green as yours. Should I leave them alone? Yeah, you really should until they start to yellow. We don't wait until they're fully like yellow and brown and on the ground. We wait until like half the leaf is yellow and then we cut them back. Usually that's sufficient enough to charge up the bulb for the next year, but they look so bad. And it's usually during that time period. It's like a month time period where all the foliage just looks ratty, where I'm like, I don't want to plant any more bulbs. No more bulbs in the landscape because it looks too bad for too long in the spring. But yeah, they do need to soak up some of that sunshine and start dying back before you cut them. Mary said, oh my, do you have any idea how much your videos mean to your GA family? To see you and Aaron work so hard to make such beautiful gardens for all of us to see. I've never met you in my life, but you've impacted my life in a big way. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, sweet.
That is a really sweet one. Oh, thank you, Mary.
I kind of understand that to a really small degree. I think when Casey Neistat was putting out daily videos and he had so much creativity, like this was 2016, I think 15 or 16. And, he just put so much creativity, into his videos that the inspiration just was off the charts. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just me, cause he was getting at that time, like millions of views per video. Mm-hmm. And so I think there were a lot of other people that felt the same way. So I think to a small degree, I kind of get, you know, people who are into gardening, they really are inspired by, you know, what you do. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet to hear. Okay, last group of questions is from the recap video from last week. Mod Art Quilt said, I mentioned this on your Facebook page, but have you tried barley straw in your pond and streams for string algae? I've been using it for years. I just toss a few bales in during springtime and it's clear in a month.
Yeah, I just bought and applied barley extract yesterday. So hopefully that will do the same thing. I'm gonna try that and see how it works. I texted your dad about barley bales.
We used to carry them down at the garden center years ago.
He probably was busy. He didn't respond. So
I probably have seen him. He's a little hit and miss in the response on his text messages anyway.
Well, I've probably seen him since that text message. I forgot to. Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll try the bales as well. Like I think what you do is you put them like in a pouch or something like that.
They came in like a mesh bag.
Yeah.
Almost like a tea, like steeping your tea sort of thing.
From my short research, it seemed like as it decomposes, it's like the whatever it excretes, like that's what it is that takes care of the algae. So I think the extract does the same thing because you're kind of getting like composted barley. You know, so
it's worth a shot.
Yeah,
sure.
I texted Greg and I was like, "What do you think about this?" He was like, "Try it."
Yeah,
you know.
We're not out anything.
It's natural. It's not like, you know, it's some chemical you're throwing in there.
Right.
So
Finhill Dahlias said, if you could do it over again, would you have installed a shade tree or two prior to the pond install? You guys are fortunate with the ability to bring in huge trees. I mean, I would have loved that, but we didn't really know how, you know, you don't know how things are going to take shape. And I would hate for the placement to be wrong. Yeah. And I'm sure Brian would have worked around it and made it work.
Sure.
But being able to freely move excavators around and people, equipment, I mean, all that stuff, it was nice to have such an open spot. And all of them were like, this is so great. Because usually when we're putting in ponds, it's in an existing mature landscape and you're trying to dodge so many things, trying not to ruin grass, trying not, you know. And so this was just like blank slate. You can put your machine wherever you want, sort of a situation.
They also marveled at how like rock free our soil is.
Yeah.
They were like, this is awesome.
Yeah. Lori said, when you guys have your fences installed, do you place them right on the property lines or do you allow some extra space so you can maintain the side facing the neighbors? We're getting close to putting up a new fence soon and I'm not sure what to do.
If you put a fence on your property, like in a couple feet, the neighbors will think that's what the property line is. So unless you've got some real clear survey markers like survey pins that are bright and everybody knows that I put my fence a couple feet in, they'll take that land. They'll just assume that it's theirs. So keep that in mind. But yeah, if you put it right on the property line, then they're kind of going to be responsible for taking care of that side of the fence because you don't really have room to get on that side.
Well, and you were saying that at one point the fences, we put our white fence in after some of the neighbors had put up their vinyl fencing on the property line.
Like subdivision fence, vinyl 6 foot, like a normal fence.
So we placed ours in like a foot or whatever. So we actually own right up to their fence, but there is some space in there that we try to keep weed free, and they don't see it. Their fence is solid. But anyway, so it does sit a little bit. Yeah. Also, when we first moved in here, it's not an issue anymore because now we own both sides. But when we had those pots, along the east fence line with the shorter white fence, we actually owned like 8 or 10 feet into the neighbor's grass. Yeah. But we never made a fuss about it and we kind of we didn't want to make a fuss, but we thought it'd be awesome to plant trees along the lane right there. Right. I'm glad we didn't because it all worked out beautifully. But he already had his irrigation system set up, there, and we weren't going to make him move, any of that. It just makes for weird,
I would probably lean toward putting it right on the property line.
Yeah.
Just because if you don't, just know you're basically giving a couple feet to your neighbors.
Unless you have a conversation like, hey, we're doing this.
New neighbors will come.
I know.
And then you'll have that conversation, and in their mind, they're going to think, this person's lying.
Yeah.
Like my new neighbor is lying to me about where the property line is. And so it just, unless of course, if you have the property pins, we had that. It didn't even help in our case. We had like a little telephone pole kind of, and it had a thing on it and said, this is like a survey. It's called like a something monument. And it was clear as day, but they still put the fence 10 feet off.
Yeah.
So I'd probably put it on the property line.
Yeah. A good fence on the property line makes for a good neighbor situation in the long run. Lisa said, sorry for being so late. My question is, can you prune shape or cut down or top prune an emerald green arborvitae? If so, what's the best time to do it? If you did that, it might make it stool out a little bit, thicken it up a little bit. That's a potential thing that could happen. If you were to do the pruning, I would say late winter, early spring would be a fine time to do that. Again, I don't have a tremendous amount of experience with the emerald green arborvitae, but we don't top ours just because we want ours to be tall where they're at. But if you do top it, typically things will just get a little bit thicker. Ginger said, do you ever have trouble with birds building nests in your hoselinks? I have 4 hoselinks and the birds are building nests in all of them. We've never had that. I've had a wasp nest try to form up in one, which that's easy to handle, but bird
Is there room? Are you keeping it pulled out all the time to where there's a bunch of space in it?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
We've never had experience with that ever. And we've got how many hoselinks?
30.
Yeah.
We keep them coiled up all the time. They're never out. So I just don't see how there'd be space inside. Maybe there is, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, that's wild. And BZ6013 said, speaking of beneficial insects, how has your experience with them been? I think we talked about this last week. Yeah, not good. I think it's too spread out. We're dealing with too hard of a pest. It's not a monoculture situation or an enclosed situation in a greenhouse where things will stay put,
Yeah, we've talked to some growers who do it inside greenhouses and they're like, it works great.
Well, that makes sense.
They keep everything closed up.
Yeah,
there's nowhere for them
forced.
to go.
Those beneficials are forced to eat whatever is in there, because they can't get anywhere else. But here it's like, who knows? Who knows how long they stay? And obviously they didn't because they did not take care of our problem. I was so hopeful for that, though. I'm glad we tried it out because now we can speak with experience. Right. 2 full years of experience, not the way we're going to handle it this time around. Cheryl said, if you drain the pond each year to clean it, aren't you starting from square one again every time you replace the water? Somewhat. There's still some beneficial bacteria left.
Yeah, I think there's big reservoirs in the wetland filter.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where all the beneficial bacteria hang out anyway. So I had that same question though. I was kind of like, wait a second. And then they were like, yeah, but the wetland filter has a bunch of water in it.
Sure. Actually, that was the last question.
Oh.
So that is it for this week's recap video. It is sunny and beautiful outside. I'm going to go take a walk to the strawberries with Samantha right now, and then I'm going to probably do some more annual planting, kind of the order of all the days right around this time of year. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, we are doing the Memorial Day sale now. If you're Wednesday the 28th, 10% off of your entire order, excluding DeWalt drills. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.